from their respective heartlands. More importantly, the borderlands are populated by ethnic minorities that do not necessarily abide by the rules of the central governments. These large, ungoverned swaths of land are predisposed to illegal activities and separatist attitudes. Such are the complications of Indochina. Historically, the lack of authority over the borderlands allowed foreign powers to exploit these elements at the expense of the feudal rulers. Ultimately, this is what allowed the Europeans to colonize the area, and it's also what enabled the Japanese and Allied forces to advance into the region during World War II. As technology improved, the Americans and the Soviets turned the separatist militias into well-armed proxies, which they used against one another. This history of foreign exploitation has left a deep, lasting impression on the local people. Yet, despite their common legacy, the regional nations also remain distrustful of each other as they still cope with artificial borders and unsettled civil conflicts. So the lack of complete authority aggravates frictions from within and without. This regional division also hampers the economic potential of the area. According to the Asian Development Bank, the economies in mainland Southeast Asia need to allocate at least 5.7% of their GDPs towards integrated infrastructure projects through 2030 to unlock their trade potential. Yet with the situation on the ground, even if the funds were available, there is little political will for regional integration. This also explains why political and economic integration through the Association of Southeast Asian Nations has been such an incremental process. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Myanmar are all preoccupied with the consolidation of power and remained reluctant to forge better relations with each other. Perhaps the best evidence of the regional division can be witnessed by the individual agreements with China. For instance, the upstream control of the Mekong River, which runs from the Tibetan Plateau in China to Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam, grants the government in Beijing significant leverage over the economies of the downstream nations. Although the Mekong River is difficult to navigate, it remains an important supply line for small vessels between West China and Southeast Asia. The Chinese trade activity is particularly noticeable in Laos and Cambodia. Despite their shared geopolitical vulnerability, the downstream nations have negotiated bilateral agreements with China over the management of the Mekong's resources. These individual talks give Beijing the ability to negotiate from a position of strength, because the Chinese can always play off the downstream countries against each other and extract maximum concessions. Overall, the unyielding geography of mainland Southeast Asia that is invested with conflict and exploited by foreign powers means that long-lasting stability and peace is an elusive concept. Yet some nations benefit from this arrangement more than others. For instance, the Kingdom of Thailand, which sits at the nexus of mainland Southeast Asia, has the potential to emerge as a regional power. Its heartland, located around the rich lowlands of the Chao Phraya River basin, enabled the Thai rulers to form a strong, unified ethnic and economic base. Its largest city, Bangkok, is one of the most centralized capitals in the region. This seat of power is protected by mountains to the north and the Korat Plateau to the northeast, while the Tenasserim Hills deflect neighboring Myanmar from encroachment. Thailand's primary geographic vulnerability comes from Cambodia to the east, but the two states have an understanding that involves Vietnam. In the past, Thailand's vast agricultural output and its position in between the Andaman Sea and the South China Sea was the focus of contention among European powers. Regardless, the country was never fully colonized, neither by the Europeans nor by the regional kingdoms on its flanks. Thailand's ability to deflect international and regional powers is a point of enormous national pride to this day. Since the 19th century, the Thai rulers have maintained a loose alliance with the Americans. This arrangement was briefly disrupted during World War II, when Thailand declared war on the United States and the British Empire at the behest of the Japanese invasion. However, the Thai government rotated back to the west soon after the conflict. In fact, during the Cold War, Thailand served as a geopolitical counterweight to the spread of communism elsewhere in the area. Today, Bangkok maintains an alliance with Washington, while its economy, which is mostly dominated by the industrial and manufacturing sectors, maintains deep ties with Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. What's more is that since Thailand shares no border with China, the government in Bangkok is less fearful of Beijing and embraces Chinese investments as a result. This complex web of security and financial partners illustrates that Thai policymakers seek to reduce their dependency on a single ally and prefer to keep their options open. Located on the easternmost edge of Indochina is Vietnam. Foreign policy-wise, it is one of the toughest countries imaginable. Having decisively won an armed conflict against the Chinese, the French, and the Americans, the Vietnamese geopolitical mindset is shaped by its confidence and determination to maintain their painstakingly won independence. As a result, Vietnam has invested fiercely in its armed forces, which remarkably stands its ground against the Chinese. The Socialist Republic